All right, let's jump straight in. Welcome to today's Explainer. And listen, we're kicking things off with a pretty urgent alert. If you run a business, if you operate as a freelancer, or if you're self-employed, you really need to pay close attention to what we're covering today. We are looking at a massive, highly time-sensitive window regarding potentially improper IRS penalties and interest that might have been charged to you over the last few years. Seriously, millions of taxpayers could be sitting on refunds they don't even know exist. But there is a rapidly approaching clock on this opportunity, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack right now.
And there's that ticking clock, July 10th, 2026. I literally want to burn this date into your brain. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a hard, absolute, critical deadline for most impacted taxpayers. If you miss this exact date, you permanently lose your right to claim this specific refund, period, no exceptions. We're going to explain exactly why this date is so important in a minute, but the biggest takeaway right out of the gate is urgency. You really cannot afford to wait until the last minute on this one.
Now, look, if you're feeling a little skeptical right now, I completely get it. Honestly, anytime someone throws the words IRS and refunds into the same sentence, my own red flags go up. But check out this quote. If the government owes you money, you should get it back. It's that simple. That is straight from Kevin O'Leary, you know, the serial entrepreneur and Shark Tank investor. He's a partner at Wonder Trust, which is the organization championing this whole refund recovery effort. So this isn't some shady charity program or a weird tax loophole. It's about hard-earned dollars that legally belong back in your pocket because of improper penalties.
Okay, let's move right into Section 1, the catalyst, specifically Kwong versus United States. So why is this all happening right now? Well, the catalyst is a landmark federal court decision from back in November of 2025. This ruling fundamentally shifted the whole landscape. It interpreted a very specific tax code provision in a way that suggests certain IRS penalties and interest assessed during the pandemic were just entirely improper. This case literally opened the door for millions to potentially recover their money.
And it all comes down to the timeline. The official disaster period governed by that specific tax code, which is IRC Section 7508 AD for the tax nerds out there, ran exactly from January 20th, 2020 through July 10th, 2023. The Kwong decision basically said that filing and payment deadlines may have been legally postponed during this entire window, and since penalties can only accrue after a deadline actually passes, well, you can do the math. So why 2026? Taxpayers generally have a 3-year look-back period to file for a refund. 3 years from the end of that emergency period lands us exactly at our absolute cutoff, July 10th, 2026.
So what's the actual move here? You need to file what's called a protective claim. Let's strip away the legal jargon for a second. A protective claim is just a formal IRS filing that preserves your right to request a refund while a legal issue is still being hammered out in the courts. Why do we need to do this? Because the Kwong decision isn't totally finalized yet. The IRS has the right to appeal it, and honestly, most tax pros believe they absolutely will. Filing this claim doesn't magically guarantee a check in the mail tomorrow, but it securely holds your place in line. Because if you don't file it and the court rules in favor of the taxpayers, you still get absolutely nothing.
Which brings us to Section 2, who qualifies? Subtitle, Businesses and Freelancers. This is the most important part, because we're talking about you and your business. The beauty of this whole opportunity is that it's incredibly broad. It is not just reserved for massive Fortune 500 companies with giant accounting departments on standby. This was actually designed to protect the everyday American entrepreneur. Just look at this breakdown. The sheer scope of who is eligible is massive. If you're a corporation, an LLC, or an S-Corp, you're looking at covered penalties like failure to file or failure to pay. Moving down the list, for sole proprietors and partnerships, estimated tax penalties are what come into play. And if you're a freelancer or self-employed individual filing a standard Form 1040, you're covered for underpayment interest. Millions of taxpayers fall straight into these buckets.
I really want to pause and call out our gig workers, the side hustlers, the independent contractors for a second. If you are a Schedule C filer, IRC Section 6654 estimated tax penalties are explicitly covered. A lot of self-employed folks just assume these big corporate court cases have nothing to do with them. That is entirely false here. The Kwong decision and that underlying tax code apply incredibly broadly to individuals. If you paid estimated tax penalties during that 2020 to 2023 window, you could have a very, very real claim.
All right. Section 3, the zero-cost safety net, removing the friction. Naturally, right about now, you're probably thinking, okay, this sounds amazing, but what is it going to cost me to have lawyers and accountants go head-to-head with the IRS? Well, this is where the model for recovering these funds gets unbelievably taxpayer-friendly.
Here are the magic words: zero upfront cost and 100% contingency. Wonder Trust operates on a totally risk-free financial model. There are no retainers, no crazy hourly billable fees to stress over. There are absolutely no hidden costs ever. They simply take a percentage of the refund they actually manage to recover for you. If they don't recover a single dime, you pay absolutely nothing. It is a completely risk-free safety net, literally designed to remove any hesitation you might have about going after what's rightfully yours. Section 4, the action plan. 3 steps to file. So how do we actually get this across the finish line? The teams at WonderTrust and iHub Global have taken this super complex legal process and boiled it down into a highly efficient, straightforward execution plan. You don't need to be a tax expert to navigate this. You literally just follow the path they've laid out. It really boils down to this. Step 1, free eligibility review. Step 2, we guide your claim. And Step 3, we track your IRS status. It's designed to be completely effortless for you. Let's take a quick magnifying glass to each of these steps just so you know exactly what to expect.
Zooming in on Step 1, the free eligibility review. This takes less than 2 minutes of your time. You just fill out some basic info, and with your authorization, WonderTrust gets secure view-only access to your tax transcripts. And I want to really stress that view-only part. They cannot make changes, they can't file returns for you, and they certainly cannot alter your account. It just allows their experienced tax pros to peek in and see if you were actually charged these potentially improper penalties in the first place.
Then we hit Step 2. If they actually find an opportunity in your records, the experts take the wheel. They analyze the data, determine the exact protective claim needed, and do all the heavy lifting to prepare those complex filings. But here's the kicker. You review and approve everything before it ever gets submitted. You never lose control of the process. You are sitting right there in the driver's seat the entire time, just without having to do all the exhausting paperwork.
And finally, Step 3. The claim is officially submitted to the IRS. From there, the team handles all the tracking and feeds you regular updates. You aren't just left in the dark wondering if anything actually happened. And just to reiterate, the single most important part of this entire model, their fee is only due upon a successful recovery. Let me say that again. 0 risk to your bottom line.
And by the way, all of this operational execution, it's brought to you by WonderTrust and iHub Global, acting as an independent referral source. They've built this incredible ecosystem that merges serious tax and finance expertise with real legal insight and, most importantly, proven recovery outcomes. They've already helped tens of thousands of businesses and individuals successfully recover money, basically turning all this legal complexity into real, tangible dollars. But guys, I've got to bring us back to the reality of the calendar here. Depending on exactly when you're listening to this explainer, the clock is winding down fast. There are roughly 65 days left to take action before that absolute hard deadline of July 10th, 2026 hits us. Once those days are gone, that window slams shut forever. No do-overs. Which leaves us with one final, provocative question. Will you secure your refund before the clock runs out? Millions of Americans overpaid the IRS during a historically brutal time for business owners. Taking 2 minutes to check your eligibility literally costs you nothing, but ignoring it? That could cost you everything you are rightfully owed. Do not leave your hard-earned dollars sitting on the table. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to take action today.